In this project we're going to make a few objects, and we're going to put them on a plane and put some walls in behind it so that we can learn a few of the features of Blender and make some what I would call artistic sort of scene that we can render. So let's basically start by looking at what we've got here. First thing is we've got a light up here, and you can select the light by right clicking on it. So anywhere where you right click, it's going to select that object. And that's one way you can select an object. The next way you can select an object is to press the B key to box select, and if you draw a box around the object or any part of the object, it will select the entire object. You can see there we've got it selected. Or you can press C for circle select, and you can select any object that way, but it adds to the selection. You can see there that I've selected that now. And you can right click to get rid of that. You can press A to deselect all, and if you press A again, it selects all, so you can see that all of the objects are now selected. So basically, with that in mind, we're going to select the cube, and now I'm going to press G, and G will grab the cube, and now that I've grabbed the cube, I can move it round independent of the other objects. Now I want to move my cube neatly only up and down in the Z direction, so I'm going to press the Z key, and that's going to make it stick to the Z plane only. So now I can move it up and down as I require, and I'm going to move it up so that it's sort of sitting just a little bit above where that sort of grid reference is. And I've been able to move that. Obviously, if I want to grab that again, I can move it again. But if I press escape, it goes back to where it was. So I need to press G to grab it. And now I'm going to put in the Y direction, so I can only move it in the Y direction. I'm going to move it over about this far. And if I to accept that, I can press the left click on the mouse to accept that change. I'm now going to create a different object now. I'm going to create a plane. And that plane is sitting on the ground there, and if I press my middle mouse button and move around, you'll see the plane is perfectly flat. It's just a flat surface. It does not have any three-dimensional sort of shape, although if you look at it from certain angles, it's sort of like a piece of paper. I'm going to move back to that view now. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to press the S button to scale, and now I can drag out, and that's going to sort of scale this out to be a certain size. I'm going to scale it out, but I want to scale it out to be an exact size. So at the moment it's scale of 1 where it started. I could type in 0.5 and it will take it to half scale, but I'm just going to type in the number 4, and it's going to scale it in all directions by 400%. And to accept that, I'm just going to click the left mouse button. You can now see that I've got a big plane, and I've got a cube that's floating just directly above that. Now I'm going to add, and you can see over here I've got a lot of choice here. The next thing I'm going to add is this thing called a torus, and it's just basically like a donut there. I'm going to grab that in the Z direction and move it up. And then I'm going to grab it in the X direction and move it down. And I'm going to grab it in the Y direction and move it this way a bit. Now if I actually change my view to be, let's just say, front view, you can see that the torus is floating well above. So I'm going to grab it in the Z direction and just move it down until it's just sitting on there. I'm going to now right click on the cube and grab it in the Z direction, and now it's just going to sit just there as well. Now I'm going to change my view to the camera, and we'll see that I've got a torus in the foreground, which is like a donut, and this in the background, the cube in the background. I'm going to add one more object now while I'm in the camera view. I'm going to add a monkey, and you can see now that the monkey is being added. I'm going to grab the monkey and move it in the Z direction only. Then I'm going to grab the monkey and move it in the Y direction, and I like to move one direction at a time. I'm going to change my view now so that I can see the front view, and there's the front view of the monkey. I'm going to grab the monkey and I'm going to move it in the X direction across, And then I'm going to grab my monkey and I'm going to move it down in the Z direction. So it's just touching. I'm going to change my view out here now. Now I'm going to press R, and now that I've got the monkey in the R, I can sort of rotate it. But I'm going to press X just to rotate it around the X axis, so it's sticking up like this. And now I'm going to press R again and rotate it in the Z axis, so it's sort of facing that way. And now I'm going to go to my view and look at the front view. And I'm going to grab the monkey now in the Z direction and just sit it so that it's sitting on, well, it's actually going to be sitting slightly below, so that it's sort of embedded in there. So now if I go to my camera view now, I've got a view camera, I've got a monkey, a ring, and a cube all sitting on a plane. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my view. I'm just going to zoom out from the camera a bit now. Is I'm going to click or right click on the plane, the surface plane here. And I'm going to duplicate it by pressing the D key. And now that I've duplicated it, if I grab it, escape, it's Shift D, it's capital D, Shift D. Now that I've duplicated it, I've got two planes there. So while I've got it still selected, I'm going to rotate it in the X direction by 90. So I type in 90 and press the mouse button to select it. I'm now going to grab it by pressing G, and I'm going to move it in the Y direction, and I'm going to move it out, let's just try 4, and that's going to move it to exactly that position there. I'm going to press Shift D now, and I'm going to rotate it in the Z direction by 90, and you can see that it's moved there. I'm going to press the left click to accept that move. I'm now going to grab it in the in the X direction, so X, and move it back by -4 to there, and I'm going to press the left mouse button to accept that. I'm now going to grab it in the Y direction, and I'm going to move that in exactly 4 again, maybe I'll make it -4, to this position here. Now I'm going to look at my view through the camera, and you can see now that I've got a floor and a number of walls. So this is actually going to be my scene that I've set up. Now if I render this, it's going to be a boring scene with a grey box and a monkey and a ring with two back walls there. Also notice that I can see the back walls there. I probably want to get rid of that. So let's just press escape now. I'm going to move out of the camera zone by middle clicking and just moving around a bit. Going to grab this one here, and I'm going to duplicate it, so Shift D, and I'm going to grab it in the rotate it by 90 degrees in the Y direction. So I'm going to press Y, then 90, and leave it there. And then I'm going to grab it and move it in the X direction out to about here, which is out 4. So I can type in the number 4. And then I'm going to grab it in the Z direction and move it down -4. And press enter. Enter will accept it as well as right clicking. So I've got like a front face to my area here. I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate it. I'm going to press R to rotate it. I'm going to type in the Z and then 90, and I'm going to press enter to accept it. And then I'm going to grab it in the Y direction, and I'm going to move it -4. And I'm going to press enter to accept that. I'm going to press G to grab it and move it in the X direction. Press X and then -4, and then press enter. So you now see that I've got this scene up. I'm going to go view, camera, and I've now got my scene set up quite nicely with a monkey, a ring, a cube on a nice little stage that I've got set up there. So if I go view and render to render the image, I've got that sitting there. And that has been rendered for me. It's still very ugly, but in the next video we'll look at changing some of those basic settings.